Do you think protein is the secret to growing big bucks? Think again. While protein plays a role, there's one thing that hunters and land managers are overlooking. Today, we're gonna dive into the fat versus protein debate and reveal the #1 thing to a buck's diet, and it could shock you. Why does protein get all the attention? Now look, protein is a very, very important element of a deer's diet, and all diets. That's not what we're saying, but it gets way too much attention in the practical terms, because the reality is, to really utilize the building blocks of protein, an animal needs additional things, especially during animals' growing seasons. Now, some animals have more defined growing seasons than others, but for whitetail deer, it has a major growing season that is predictable and repeatable every year. It's about 200 days long, and it happens the day it drops its antlers to the day it splits the velvet. And during that time, protein, vitamins, and minerals are very important to utilize growth to maximize genetic potential. And protein plays a huge role in all growth, all muscular development, all structural development. Without protein, you really can't grow. You really can't become what you were meant to be genetically. And that's really why it probably gets all the attention, because it is important, it is vital, it is key to growth. And the reality is, we, the deer feed industry, has probably played a major role in that influence. Protein is very easy to follow, very easy to calculate, very easy to know what you're getting and where you're getting it from. It's also, in certain forms, quite cheap. And the reality is there's so much more to protein. Energy. It's the real game changer. Digestible energy really is the secret sauce. Bucks rely on it more than anything to thrive. Now, protein has energy in it, what's called digestible energy. It does. But there's a concept that has significantly more digestible energy, and that's fat. Fat is really a true game changer in the deer's diet. Because during the growing season, you need digestible energy. They're burning calories, they're growing at an astronomical rate. Though some seasons you can see it more than others, some seasons it doesn't look like they're growing, but internally they are. Their body is changing drastically and they are burning significant energy. Fat has 2.5 times more digestible energy, more energy than protein. 2.5 times more. And that's why it's such a game changer, because it accelerates what that deer's body is really screaming for to utilize everything that's going on in that deer genetically and in its diet. You could have the greatest elements of dieting around any process, and if you're missing a key factor, you'll never get where you need to go, or you'll never get there in the time frame that you want to get there. That's the reality, guys, is every season there's a time frame to live in. And that's why it's important to understand when to implement energy. Oftentimes, we're implementing it in the wrong times of the year. We're missing those key times to fully take advantage of that time frame that we have, that 200-day time frame, to really make a difference in the deer's body. What we want to make sure that we're focusing on year in and year out, especially during that 200 days, is just the right balance. What are we doing to fully utilize the diet the deer does have, whether that's natural forage, whether that's spring and summer food plots, whether that's a supplemental feeding program, and whether or not we decide to truly add a high-fat diet. We just need a healthy balance to utilize everything that's going on in that deer's body. We've seen it time and time again. When you implement these things during those times of year, it really does change things. And the even more encouraging thing is you can see the change. I hear it all the time from customers. Man, the deer are really looking beautiful. Man, my deer coats are super shiny. Man, my deer look healthy as ever. Last year, this time of year, man, my deer were skinny and you can still see the rib bones. Not anymore. That is all super encouraging things to hear. That's an indication that you're really utilizing the nutrition that the deer has to maximize and accelerate its growth season. And those are super important things to notice. Now you're asking, man, where and when do I add this fat source? One, when are the resources at the biggest deficit? And two, you say deer don't have fat in their diets. Well, they do, but what time of year they do. The only real access to fat in a deer's diet is when the acorns drop each year. And a lot of times people talk about row crops, which I agree. There's a lot of grain out there with fat in it. But think about when those fruits or those grains are available and ready to be eaten by the animal. It's late in the season into the fall. And our argument is that they needed those fat sources so much earlier in the season, and they didn't get it because it's not available naturally. And that's why implementing a high-fat nutritional feed program in the spring and summer months can really make a big difference on your farm. Acorns are only available in the fall, and they're only available in a short period of time. That's why you see deer's behavior change when they start falling. But how do we get that fat source? How do we get that high energy source to the deer in other times of the year? So a good strategy to change the access to those high energy elements is understanding the times of year that the deer needs it the most. If you think about it, deer have come out of the winter, they have consumed everything there is to consume, the browse, all the forage, there's very little greenery left. A lot of people have abandoned their farms and stopped feeding like they traditionally do during hunting season. One of the biggest challenges for deer is the fact that we often only feed during hunting season in hopes to harvest that deer. If you'll make a few changes of when you put out feed, it can really change the game for you next season. So consider adding a feed supplement program, nutrition, some form of fat, some form of energy that they're not getting in the spring and summer. Your bucks need energy, and fat is the most efficient way to deliver it. Once doe are impregnated and that process of fawn growth inside is going on, it's gonna be a huge element for even the doe to get that extra level of energy, because they too are burning energy at an astronomical rate trying to produce a baby deer. And once you begin to see antlers pop on the buck's head, it is absolutely pivotal that you pump as much energy as you possibly can to that deer's diet for the remainder of that growing season until you see that velvet split. So as you're considering how to implement fat into a deer's diet, a few things to look for are any products with peanuts in them. And yes, deer love peanuts, and deer love a lot of things, but peanuts are huge because there's such a high percentage of fat in peanuts. So it's a great access to that fat, easily achieved. Now, peanut products are not always easy to find, and when you can find them, I would suggest buying them. And when you're looking for those type products and you're trying to find access to that energy and those fat contents, our suggestion is look for products that have double-digit percentage of fat. We have seen and we believe once you jump into the double-digit area of fat content, that's when you really start seeing the deer's performance accelerate. You really will begin to see a drastic change in your deer. If you like these videos, keep watching. Check this one out.